Hello and welcome to the very first episode of the Wellness Without Stress podcast. I'm your host. My name is Hannah Shanks, and I'm so excited to start this journey with you and begin this little passion project that has been on my heart to have conversations just like this in this format. Now, I felt prompted several months ago to start a podcast in this space to be able to talk about pursuing a wellness lifestyle, a more natural, a toxin-free lifestyle that's healthier for us, our homes, and our families. I started thinking about that several months ago because here's what I noticed. I've been in this wellness industry space for the last 11 years. I've educated, I've taught classes, I've created content, made ebooks and PDFs and all kinds of things, ran a Facebook group where we post daily health education and wellness tips, ways to use natural products, and all of that. I've done all of that for 11 plus years. And what I had noticed is that while I love and feel super passionate about all of that stuff, I love researching wellness. I love talking about hormones and I love talking about the alternatives to synthetic fragrance and all of those things. But sometimes that can become a source of stress. And sometimes pursuing this wellness lifestyle where we're trying to make better choices when it comes to our nutrition and the things that we allow in and on and around our bodies and all of those things, sometimes all of the information about what's out there and the dangers of the mainstream ingredients that are in the lime green cleaner that we might grab off the shelf at Walmart, or what's in the candle that we might go buy at Bath and Body Works and start burning in our home. Sometimes that information, because toxins are everywhere in our world, unfortunately, that can start to become a little bit overwhelming and even cause stress and fear and guilt and shame if you learn new information later on and you've been using a product that you realize is probably not safe, is probably not what's best for you. And that can contribute to a lot of negative feelings around the wellness lifestyle altogether. And that makes me so sad because the point of this wellness lifestyle that we're living, the point of going more toxin free, the point of opting for more natural ingredient products is to have peace of mind and to have the joy that comes with knowing that you're making better choices for your family's health, that you're actually doing something proactive for your health, for your longevity, for your air quality, for your skin, your gut health, your children, their future. And so I want to help us break up with this idea that pursuing a non-toxic wellness lifestyle where you're opting for more natural remedies or you're opting for more natural products and ways to do that fits into your lifestyle, that we need to break up with the shame and the fear and the guilt that sometimes comes with that. And I want to help you do that. And that's what this podcast is for. You guys, sometimes social media, we talk past each other. It's all 45-second sound bites or less. Sometimes our attention spans are so short that it's like an 8-second video doesn't even get fully watched or synthesized in our brains before we're on to the next thing, or we're like, nope, don't like that. Nope, that makes me feel bad. And social media is really not a place anymore where we can find super in-depth, helpful information, much less where we can have helpful and constructive conversations about the things that are important. And I want this podcast. That's why I chose to do podcast. I obviously will create social media content here and there, but I'm finding that social media is not as helpful of a platform anymore. I'm getting education and messages out about how to live this lifestyle, especially if we're going to talk about it with the nuances of how do we do this without falling into the trap of feeling stressed out by it all the time. And yes, I'll be creating some social media content around that, but mostly to encourage you to listen to the podcast episodes that I'll be making where we're talking about how to do this in a way that doesn't make you feel bad, that doesn't contribute to those negative emotions that sometimes we attach to things that have made us feel guilty or shameful in the past. And so I'm really hopeful, and I really want you to help me get the word out about this podcast and what we're doing here, because I feel like so many people, especially maybe this millennial generation, I feel like we've dealt with a lot of whiplash in our lives, to be honest. So sometimes it feels like a lot, and we've grown up with social media. And I feel like we're at that point with social media where we're maybe just ready for something different, something maybe a little bit more in depth. And I want to just cover this podcast and all of the content that we share here with grace. Okay. And that's probably my first encouragement to you is give yourself grace. I want to give you some tidbits today as we start this journey together. I'm going to give you 3 things, little shifts in your mindset, the way that you think about this to really set yourself up for success so that we can remember how to give ourselves grace in this process. Okay. Because sometimes, unfortunately, the wellness space, the non-toxic living space, sometimes that is not a place that's filled with very much grace. Sometimes it's a place that's filled with a lot of entitlement. It's filled with a lot of flaunting or bragging. It's filled with a little bit of competition about look how crunchy and natural I am. Look at the things that I avoid. It's filled with a little bit of throwing shade, right? On the people who maybe haven't made those same choices as you. And it's really easy to get very black and white. It's easy for me to get black and white. I'm going to be honest. I'm a black and white person. I'm a black and white thinker. I think in extremes if I'm not careful. If I don't allow reason and more of a middle ground to prevail in my thinking, I can very easily get into black and white. And especially if I get my feelings involved. If somebody can emotionally appeal to something in me, I can very easily switch off that. I'm going to give myself grace and think more towards the middle and be a little bit more balanced in my thinking about this and my approach to this. If I get emotionally triggered, you guys, I will so quickly shift into black and white where this is right, this is wrong, and you're terrible if you're choosing wrong, and you're the best if you're choosing. And so I want to be right, and so I'm going to go get over here at this. Okay, I'm such an easy bandwagoner, and I want to tell you this because like I get you. I am doing this podcast. I'm sharing all of this. I'm helping you learn how to live a wellness lifestyle without stress because I've been there. I have been in the place where I'm so extreme and I'm so caught up in all the right things and avoiding all of the dangers and all of the things that I've completely stressed myself out and completely alienated myself from any person who makes other decisions where I feel like they're wrong and they're crazy and I don't have anything to say to them. And that's wrong, right? That's wrong. We have to come back to middle. We have to be more balanced in our approach if we're going to protect and honor our nervous systems in this process. Sometimes I think we blame stress and we use it as an excuse to not do anything. And I don't want us to do that either. I don't want us to just live in this pit of, oh, that makes me feel stressed out when I think about the toxins that are in my cleaning products and how I probably need to be making better choices. And so I'm just going to bury my head in the sand and say that it stresses me out too much and I'm not going to do anything. I'm not going to make any better choices. Okay. So you see how those are extremes that we fall into, and maybe you've fallen into those before, right? And sometimes we can fall into either one. Like maybe you've been on the extreme wellness side where you're doing everything you possibly could, and then something happened or you just got burnt out with that. And so now you're here in the other extreme and you're not doing anything to pursue wellness to help get toxins out of your lifestyle. And here's what I've learned. We have to figure out a way to be both vigilant about keeping our homes and our nutrition and our products and the things that we're allowing in and around and on our bodies and in our homes to be clean, and continuing to learn how to read labels. We're going to talk a lot about that on this podcast. Learn how to read labels, learn how to look for what to avoid, learn how to prioritize the things that matter, and how to maybe say no to some of the things that they would be great if we had all the money and time and effort in the world to give, but we don't. And so how do we prioritize those things? So we have to learn how to have a balanced approach to this, to where we're not saying, I don't do any of that because it's so stressful, versus I'm doing all of that and I'm so stressed out by this that I'm about to burn. And throwing shade or casting blame on those who maybe make different decisions, or feeling so much guilt and shame and negative emotions about how we're not able to be as crunchy or natural as we would like to be, and how we must be failing because our kid ate something that was processed, or we can't just get it together because we still haven't made a decision about what kind of cleaner we want to use, or how I just can't seem to give up my 68 grams of sugar frappuccino every single day that I have. And I somehow found myself in Bath and Body Works buying all the candles, even though I thought that I was going to go a more natural route this year. Okay, like we have to get rid of the extremes. We're extreme people. And if you're a black and white thinker, sometimes you struggle with this. Hopefully I'm identifying with some of you by sharing this. I want to help you learn how to navigate this with giving yourself grace and being grace forward when it comes to this. We can always be aiming for better, but it has to be grace forward with yourself and with others. Because if you take out having grace for yourself or somebody else, you are going to find yourself in that pit of all of the negative emotion soup that goes along with feeling like you're not good enough, you're not doing this perfectly, your house isn't pretty enough, your house isn't natural enough, you're not natural enough, your kids aren't healthy enough, you're not doing enough. And we have to break up with that, because that's not helping us or anyone. It's not helping us or anyone to get into bed with those negative thoughts, and they're not leading us to make productive decisions that are helpful for our overall health and longevity. Okay, so here's what I want to encourage you with. I have 3 things to share with you today. and tons more that I'm so excited to chat with you guys and talk about with you guys. I would love for you to share this podcast with friends, share it on your social media, share it to your stories, all of those things. Please help me get the word out about this. Share it with your friends and engage. Leave comments. Help me know what to talk about. What matters to you? What are you struggling with? I want this to be a conversation. I know that sometimes it feels one-sided if we're just listening to a podcast episode. But after you listen to the episode, please come talk to me. Come talk to others in the comments. And let's have a conversation about this so that these can actually be productive conversations and talking pieces for us, and so that we can all move forward in living a wellness lifestyle without stress. Okay, so here's my 3 things if you want to jot them down. But here's my 3 things. Okay, so first of all, I want to always come back to center and remind you that health is simple. Okay, wellness is simple. Our bodies are extremely complex machines, but they really are simple. Okay, so it can be both simple, but it doesn't mean that it's easy, right? Because we have minds, we have emotions that come into play. And so what I'm really hoping to help us do is to manage those thoughts and emotions that we have about our health and our wellness so that we can really start to embrace the fact that it is simple. And I'm going to reiterate that to you probably over and over again until you're sick of hearing it, but I really want us to get it from in our heads into our inner beings that health is simple. Okay. So if it's feeling complicated, if it's feeling overwhelming, if it's feeling like this has 67 billion steps to being even the littlest bit healthy. Okay, I'm not talking about complex health issues because sometimes there is complexity about returning to a baseline of health, but maintaining a baseline of health is simple. Okay. The best health habits or the best health practices or things that you can do are free. Okay. So start with the free things. All right. Before you go buy somebody's $1,000 program to tell you that you need to be doing these simple free things mostly and then add some products that they make a profit off of. Before you go do that, and you guys, I sell wellness products, okay? For 11 years, I have sold wellness products. I was extremely careful and choosy and continue to be choosy and extremely judicious about any type of product that I refer people to or recommend to people because I know that health is simple and that the most profound, impactful health practices are free. Okay. And now food's not free, and that's the most important one. But here's what I mean by that. You don't have to buy a program, buy a supplement, buy a product, buy some sort of procedure or anything like that, medication, all of that to start with the free habits that make the most impact. And the biggest wellness practice that you could implement immediately is your nutrition. And when nutrition, avoiding processed foods, things that come in boxes, packages, things that have long ingredient lists. Okay. So when I talk about nutrition, I'm talking about real whole foods, primarily in their whole form that you make yourself. And listen, I am the world's most convenience seeker. This is so hard for me, right? That's where I say health is simple, but it's not easy. I got that from a doctor friend 10 years ago who did videos talking about how health is simple and not easy. And it changed my life thinking that way. And so that's why I'm sharing it with you. So I'm not taking credit for that. But when I say health is simple, but it's not easy, the first thing I think of is the fact that I would so much rather go buy all of the packaged dinners at Sam's Club. It would make my meal planning literally so in a cinch simple. Okay, well, just go buy a bunch of processed packaged stuff, whip them together and have dinner on the table in 5 minutes every night. On the front of that, what's wrong with that? I can have dinner on the table in 5 minutes. I don't have to stress about it. I don't have to think about it. I don't have to cook from scratch. And that honestly is the lie that was fed to several generations ago when processed packaged foods started lining the grocery store shelves. Women were told that they needed to go to work, that they needed to go spend hours of their day in the office, and they didn't have time to cook anymore. And so to answer that problem, right, to solve that problem for them, we started mass producing processed packaged food so the dinner could be simpler to make. Well, what happens when you process a food? It goes bad a lot faster, right? Real food rots on the counter within 3 to 5 days and you have to go buy more. So what the answer to that was, let's add we can add chemicals that are tasteless, or we can add salt, massive amounts of salt or sugar to this food in order to make it last a little longer. And so let's do that. And so when that first started, the ingredients probably weren't so bad. But since then, the 50 however many years since then, we've discovered that it's actually cheaper to add synthetic preservatives than just salt, which, has to be sourced properly for it to be good for you. We have discovered that we can just add chemicals to food and it lasts forever. That's why a McDonald's hamburger will sit unchanged for months if you just leave it out, because it's so full of processed chemicals to preserve that food and make it last longer. Is it more convenient? Absolutely. Does your body even know what to do with it? No, because it's completely devoid of nutrients. And so when we're eating processed food, we're informing our body that here's some calories and here's some carbohydrates and fat and things like that. But the sources of those are junk. And our body's like, I don't even know what to do with this. Okay. And so really, and we're going to talk a lot more about nutrition, but really starting with real whole foods as much as possible in their natural whole form, where we are preparing them ourselves, is really important. And that is an ancient practice that Americans have lost touch with. And it's really time for us to get back to that, because eating processed food is destroying our health. And I'm convinced that's the reason. Having a processed seed oils, having processed industrial chemicals added to preservatives, adding tons of processed white sugar that's contaminated with glyphosate, and grains that are contaminated with glyphosate because we're spraying all of our crops with Roundup in America. All of that is destroying our health. And so as much as we can get back to eating food that came from the ground that we know was not sprayed with chemicals, or food that had a mother, so eating clean meat, again, that wasn't pumped full of a bunch of antibiotics and nasty medications during its whole life, so it was a super unhealthy animal. Your meat is only as healthy as the animal that it came from while it was alive. And so getting back to eating clean, real whole foods and cooking from scratch as much as possible. Now, I know that's a huge sacrifice in convenience, and I feel it every day. So I'm with you in that, right? So it's simple, but it's not easy, but it's so important. And it's probably one of the most important things you can do for your health. If you're really struggling with some area of your health and wellness, food is medicine. Food is the information that your body needs in order to either heal or go down the path of sicknesses. So there's two choices, okay? When you choose your food, you're giving your body information on what to do in your cells and what to do in your organs and your systems. And you're giving it either information that leads towards health and healing, or you're giving it information that leads towards sickness and disease, okay? And I know that might not feel like, I thought this was supposed to be wellness without stress, Hannah. Okay, I get it. Sometimes the information that we have to grapple with doesn't feel good confronting it at the onset, but we still have to choose, how do we navigate knowing this information and choosing a mindset that says, I'm not going to get into bed with fear and guilt and shame and stress with this. I'm going to choose a productive thought that's going to help me make better decisions. And so I want to come back to, I want to encourage you that health is simple. It's just not easy. And choosing to focus on the free wellness habits, the free health habits, drinking clean water, eating clean, whole, unprocessed foods as much as possible, getting enough sleep, getting outdoors, moving your body, getting sunlight, okay? Those things are free. Going to stand out in your front yard in the morning while you drink your cup of coffee to get sunlight is free, okay? Moving your body is free. You don't have to join the gym. You can go for a walk. Take your dog on a leash and go for a walk. That's moving your body. Especially great if it's outdoors, okay? So we think that we sometimes have to what do I have to buy in order to become healthy? What kind of surgery do I need? What kind of medication do I need? What kind of program do I need? What kind of coach do I need? You don't need any of that, okay? You don't need any of that. And so I'm going to let you off the hook that you need to stop looking for the next best thing to buy for your health and wellness and focus more on doing the daily free stuff that actually makes the most difference, okay? Start with nutrition, but remember that health is simple. It's not always easy, okay? So look for the simple things that you can do that don't cost money to implement first, because that's going to help you so much more get to a better baseline of your health and wellness than investing a ton of money in something that may or may not pay off and improving your health. Okay, second thing I want to encourage you is that it's not a race, all right? It's not a race, and I know that Instagram makes you feel like it is. So you don't need my permission to do anything. I'm not here to offer that. But if somebody you follow on Instagram makes you feel like, I'm never going to be good enough, I'm not doing enough, I'm not doing good enough, that makes me feel afraid. Or they say, there's all kinds of extreme stuff on Instagram. Sometimes it's crazy. If something strikes you as, I don't know like how that made me feel, I don't really like how that hit me, you don't have to follow. You can unfollow anyone you want on Instagram, and it doesn't even send them a notification. They won't even know. They won't even know if you're like, you know what, I need a break from that type of content. I need a break from feeling like I have to have the most perfect $1 million farmhouse and 25-acre farm that includes like miniature cows that don't do anything, or donkeys or chickens. And I need like a chicken mansion that's like Pinterest perfect. And I need the cutest apron. And like all of that is just a trap to get you to feel like you have to spend money in order to have this like utopian life that's not even a real thing. Okay, like farms are dirty and messy, and yeah, they produce food for us, and I'm so thankful for farmers. But I'm not a farmer. I live in a regular house in a subdivision, okay? And I'm pursuing a wellness lifestyle. I don't have chickens. I've killed like every plant I've ever had in the house and outdoors. Our garden has been a complete failure for the last 3 years. Okay, like I'm doing so many things not well when it comes to this type of lifestyle. What makes me feel like I should just give up and forget it because it's not even working is going on Instagram and seeing people who have the most beautiful, gorgeous, humongous mansion farms, right? Like the homesteader's dream, and everything they touch is perfect and they look perfect all the time doing their farm chores and their children are perfect. Like nothing makes me want to just completely throw in the towel on pursuing any kind of wellness, natural lifestyle than seeing that type of content. Now, that's my own problem because a lot of people can see that content and consume all kinds of it and feel wonderful about it. Okay. So those are my own thoughts that are informing my feelings and how I feel about that. But what I'm saying to you is if there's someone on social media that is giving you wellness information or helping you do something about homesteading or living a natural lifestyle or food and nutrition or whatever, and their content does not strike you as helpful, but instead it makes you feel stressed or it makes you feel like you're not doing enough or you're not doing it good enough or you're not doing it fast enough, you can unfollow. And that's what I recommend you do is you find people to unfollow because you can curate your social media feed. You decide what kind of content you consume. Okay. I know that it feels like sometimes we're just dished up stuff and Instagram is in charge of what we see, but what you interact with and what you choose to unfollow and what you choose to consume informs them of what you're interested in. And so you probably need to take an inventory if social media is making you feel bad or stressed or guilty or whatever, or scared about how clean your lifestyle is or how healthy you're being, then you need to break up with those content creators and find people who actually make you feel like you're doing a great job and encourage you in a positive way to keep moving forward and making good decisions for yourself and your wellness and your family. But don't pile on or make you feel like you're not rich enough, your house isn't big enough, you don't have a good enough homestead, you're not doing this well enough unless you're like making sourdough bread and raising your own chickens and have this like picturesque life that's also a facade. They are not, nobody's life is actually that perfect. And that's also not a race. And so you don't need to be in competition with anyone, feeling like you have to do all of this now. This is a journey. It's a process. Starting to pursue a non-toxic lifestyle and a wellness lifestyle in general is always going to be a journey. We're always going to be learning. We're always going to be making minor adjustments, sometimes major adjustments, depending on what is right for us in that time. But it's not a race, and you're not going to get a gold star for being like the crunchiest at the end of some fake checkpoint. It's not coming. Okay. So you give yourself grace. Remind yourself that this is a process, it's a journey, it's not a race. You're not racing any of those influencers to some sort of false reward. This is what's best for you. This is for your health. This is what your family needs and what's best for you and your children. The people who are living under your own roof are the ones who matter, not the person on Instagram who makes you feel like you have to buy more, do more, be better, be more perfect, all of that stuff. Okay. Last thing for this episode is to make one best right choice for you at a time and focus on one step in the right direction at a time instead of feeling like you have to overhaul everything. All right. So, one way that I really like to do this is to take inventory of the products in my home, the products that I've been using. And as I run out of something, let's say as I run out of my laundry soap, I'm going to look for just maybe one step better in the right direction. If you're using Tide right now and you're like, I'm not really ready, I don't think, to step fully into the like natural crunchy laundry, then choose a fragrance-free version, okay? And as you learn more, you can make better choices and you can do what's best for your family. there are some things that are obvious avoid, right? Some things that are like, this cannot, I can't do this anymore, especially if they're causing you illness or causing your wellness to decline. There are some things that might be more urgent, and that's also a choice that you get to make. What's your priority? You decide your priority in your home and your family's wellness journey. Don't let somebody else influence you on doing stuff that's not actually a priority and that's not actually your top needs for your family, because you're the gatekeeper of your home. You decide what comes in and you decide what goes out. You decide what the priorities are and the needs are for you and the people in your home. You don't let other people determine what those priorities are for you. Okay. Make one best choice at a time. The next right thing. I think there's a song from Frozen. The next right thing. Make the next right choice that you need as you run out of something in your home. If that is not serving your needs, or you're feeling you've heard or you've researched, or maybe you for the first time are like looking at the ingredients being like, I don't even know what's in this. I don't know if I can pronounce those words. Or you're noticing like, this is causing rashes. This is maybe causing breathing problems. This is causing irritation, whatever. Maybe your hormones are not great and you're looking what are some other ways besides more intense interventions? What are some other ways that I could be working on this? And you're looking at how to get rid of synthetic fragrances. Laundry is one of those ways, right? Looking at your laundry room, looking at what you're scenting your house with, looking at what you're spraying all over your body, putting in your hair and washing yourself with. Those are some key places that fragrance is hiding. And so those might be some priorities for you, but you can decide what the priority is and you can just make one right decision. I know that it's tempting to feel like you have to go throw absolutely everything out of your house, especially as you start learning about reading ingredients or start learning about all the chemicals that are allowed in our products that aren't regulated. And even though we know that they're not safe. And so I understand and relate with the feeling of urgency. Like, I got to get on top of this. I got to clean this up. This is not good. But if you're not in a financial place right now to do that, or if you're not in a mental or emotional place where you feel like you can handle a complete overhaul, give yourself grace. You don't have to do it all at once. It can be a process. It can be a journey where you just take one step at a time, replace one thing at a time with something better, and keep doing your research. That helps you stay in a place of peace with this process instead of a place of stress and urgency and feeling guilty and feeling fearful about things where you don't make the best decisions for your family. But when you have peace of mind, you're purposeful, you're doing this intentionally, and you're giving yourself grace, knowing that there's going to be future opportunities for you to make better decisions for your family's wellness, then you let yourself off the hook. It doesn't have to be all done yesterday. It can be done over time as you're financially able to, as you have had the time to do research and decide what you want to do, what decisions you want to make. This also helps you get out of that extreme thinking where you either are doing all of it and stressing yourself out, or you're doing none of it because you're so burnt out, because you're understanding that it's a process, and every chance you have to make a new decision about what kind of products you bring in your home, where you shop, what kind of things you're going to prioritize, you have the opportunity to make the next best right decision for you and your family, your wellness. This is your journey. It's not a race. Start with the simple things. Remember that health is simple. It's not always easy, but it is simple. And the best and most effective wellness practices are free. Nutrition, sunlight, water, sleep, exercise. Okay. Let me know your thoughts. What do you want to say back to me after hearing me talk about this for a little bit? Hopefully this was helpful. Let me know if it was helpful or if it was not helpful. I would love to hear some of the things that are stressing you out, that are causing you stress in your wellness lifestyle, so that we can talk about them and we can have a discussion. I'd love for you to share this podcast with your friends. We have so much more to talk about, and I'm so excited to bring it to you. And we will catch you next time. Thank you so much for your time listening or watching, and for sharing and for engaging with us. I'm so excited for this journey, and we'll see you guys really soon.